Welcome to the only daily podcast focusing on compliance news of the day. Each morning, start your day with a cup of coffee and Tom Fox, the voice of compliance, to hear about 4 of the top compliance, corruption, or leadership stories you will need to start your day. The Daily Compliance News is a production of the Compliance Podcast Network.
First, a word from our sponsor. The Daily Compliance News for April 13, 2023, the Do Sanctions Work edition. And we begin with that story from Planet Money, a first-time contributor to the Daily Compliance News, which reports on a book by Agatha Damaris entitled Backfire: How Sanctions Reshape the World Against U.S. Interest. She says that sanctions are sometimes effective, but most often not, and it's hard to predict they will. Of course, the U.S. currently has sanctions against Russia, Iran, Afghanistan, China, and a host of other countries. So they're not going away, but a very interesting take from this new book. Next up, from the New York Times, Judge Eric Davis, who is overseeing the Dominion defamation case against Fox News, has imposed a sanction on the network and has called for an independent investigation into whether Fox's legal team had deliberately withheld evidence, scolding lawyers for not being straightforward with him. The lawyers, of course, pled, well, we didn't do anything wrong, but the fact is they're still delivering relevant documents literally the week before trial. So I would expect a fine is not enough, so there'll be some sanction against Fox News of what they can do at trial. Next up, from Fox News itself, the prosecution in the corruption case for the ex-Illinois House Speaker has rested. The defense will now begin its work, and defense attorneys have tried to diminish the testimony of the government's star witness, suggesting he was just testifying to please prosecutors and to get out of a lengthy jail term. My gosh. And our final story is on the U.S. Virgin Island lawsuit against JPMorgan Chase for aiding Jeffrey Epstein in sex trafficking. Well, it turns out the bank knew back in 2006 about Mr. Epstein's predilections and allowed him to withdraw huge amounts of money from the bank, upwards of several hundred thousand per month. Interestingly, in 2012 or 2013, the company's compliance function said that the bank needed to cut all ties with Epstein, and they eventually did in 2013. But you have to wonder what was going on between 2006 and the time frame where they did disengage themselves with Epstein. This is obviously one of the ugliest cases around. It's going to put a huge black eye on JPMorgan, and the more discovery they do, probably the worse it's going to get. The Daily Compliance News is a production of the Compliance Podcast Network and a proud member of C-Suite Radio. Thanks so much for listening. I hope you'll join me again tomorrow.